know, pulling a pulling a Joe Biden on you here. You know, old Joe gets away with this kind of stuff all the time. So it's my turn to get away with it a little bit. But you know, I wanted to lead today, Freedom Friday, with a story on Portland and how this court ruled against the fencing that's up to protect a federal courthouse. He wants to let the people tear down the courthouse. We have Sylvia Espinosa is on the line. Hey, Sylvia, how you doing? Hello?
Yes, Charles Rogers, how you doing?
Hey, how you doing, Charles?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, doing pretty good.
Good.
Yeah. I just got through watching a little program there with Bradley Dean, regarding stuff with Trump.
Uh-huh.
And I would just like to emphasize on actually what we are seeing today with all of this stuff that's going on with the Black Lives Matter, Antifa, all these riots,
right,
and stuff like that was actually supposed to happen 20 years ago during the Army of God attacks on Oklahoma City bombing, Centennial Park bombing, the attempted bombing of the IRS building on Buford Highway in Orville, Georgia, the morning of March 11th, 1997.
Right.
The attempted bombing of the FBI in Mobile, Alabama, the morning of January 28th, 1998, by suspects Eric Rudolph, Matt McRae, and that bunch, Murphy, North Carolina.
I remember that.
Because all these years, the public has been under the impression, that Eric Rudolph was a lone wolf operative out here just, bombing abortion clinics. And the information was never let out to the public that he, in fact, was involved with the Oklahoma City bombing.
Right.
And, of course, everybody's, heard the media call them radical, right-wing extremists when, in fact, they were actually radical, far-left extremists, what we call deep state operatives.
Right.
And some of the members going back as far as the North Fox Island pedophile ring to the Oakland County child murders, and some of them even being involved in the Atlanta child murders back in the late 1970s and early 1980s. Because all these years, they've always been trying to start a race war here in the United States. That was their purposes of assassinating Martin Luther King Jr., Fred Hampton up there with the Black Panthers in Chicago, and the purpose of murdering the Oakland County children and Oakland County child murders was in hopes of pinning that on the Black Panthers as well. But Caucasian suspects were actually seen meeting with Timothy King, the last victim. And when we sit here and we look at what's actually going on, this stuff has been planned for many years.
Well, I'm sure there have been many attempts, but and there have been many factions. But at the end of the day, the American people are smart enough to figure this out. And I tell you, if we didn't have Donald Trump in office today, who is determined to do the right thing, who's determined to bring law and order to these cities, we would be in bad shape. I mean, I've been calling for the National Guard to come to Chicago since 2007. When I first did it, Jesse Jackson, Father Flager, all protested me and said that I wanted to kill black young men. And I said, these black young men are killing our black babies. And everybody kind of poo-pooed me and looked the other way. Well, that was the reality. There were more people dying here in Chicago than dying in the battlefields of Iraq. And so the listeners on my show started calling that segment Chirac. And that's how that term got out there. If you ask anybody here in Chicago, where'd that term come from? And they'll tell you Charles Butler. Charles Butler's show. I coined that phrase, Chirac.
Yeah.
But we see
Yeah.
the killing. We see there's not going to be a race war, because at the end of the day, I don't care what the media says, whether it's right wing media, left wing media, in the middle media. American people like each other. We love each other. We go to work with each other every day. And do we like all white people? No. Do we like all black people? No. But we have our friends, and we will stand by our friends until the end. And nobody, Timothy McVeigh, Eric Rudolph, none of these people are going to kill the American spirit and to kill the love and affection that we have for each other.
Well, I agree, because right now, what we have seen here in recent years is actually the Black conservative movement, which I told a lot of people up in Western North Carolina back when I was working and living up there until 1999. They had been indoctrinated to so much racial hatred that they did not think that the Black population would come around to the similar views and all that of them, and which of course there was some friends of mine up there as well that was from that area that was like me, and sit there and pretty much told them, I said, they're going to eventually get tired of the Democratic Party keeping them ensnared under the welfare system. They're going to want to go out here. They're going to be like everybody else. They're going to want to get an education. They're going to want to go out here and raise their families in a nice, decent neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And in 20 years, you people are going to see this.
Well,
and they're seeing it now.
Yeah, but remember, it's been hidden, though. It's been hidden. I mean, it's always been there. Black people have always been conservative. Who gets up and goes to church on Sunday morning? Black people across this country get up every Sunday morning, put on their suits. They don't go to church in slacks and blue jeans and a t-shirt. They put on their suits. They put on their nice dresses, and they go worship who? The Lord. Okay. So what could be any more conservative than that? These white politicians and these black politicians have sold the American people, the black people out, and then they sold the American people out. They sold us out to the Chinese, and that's why they don't want Donald Trump in there, because Donald Trump is telling China, we're going to do made in America, people. There's a great commercial on that pillow commercial. And there's a man who comes on, he says, I bought this because it was made in America and of high quality. We have allowed these corporations to take over our country. We should have an official language of this country should be English. Driver's license testing should not be in 125 different languages. If you want to be an American, goddammit, then learn English. And if you don't want to learn English, get your ass out of this country.
Well, yeah, that's what really shocked the living daylights out of that bunch over in Dorville, Georgia that morning. And it's one of the reasons why the assistant manager was actually to make his way out of the front door of Rent-A-Center. It was 3 colored employees and myself that pulled the bombing of the IRS building there in Dorville that morning. I mean, DeKalb County and Dorville Police, they had that whole section of Buford Highway blocked off for over 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
The truck bomb they intended to blow up that building with was 3 times more lethal than the ones that they had used in the exterior bombing of the Alfred P. Murray Federal Building. In other words, it was going to wipe out a larger area than what it did out there in Oklahoma City.
Well, this is the thing. You seem to be pretty knowledgeable about this. Now, one thing that they never.
Well, I was directly involved in that case.
Well, give me a little bit about your background.
Well, I'm a former Electrolux authorized sales and service representative. I worked for Kirby before that. I'm a developer builder's brat. Never finished high school. Never anticipated ever working with the FBI or state of North Carolina in anything in my life until I transferred from Pensacola, Florida to Murphy, North Carolina, July the 21st of 1996. And I mean, I no need to type a whole lot of time here, but Radio Shack was next door to my office there at Murphy.
Mm-hmm.
And it was owned by brothers Doug and Merle McRae. And during this time, they were intended to hit Centennial Park on July the 25th of 1996.
Mm-hmm.
And I opened my big mouth. I told Doug McRae first morning I'm sitting out back of my office drinking coffee and smoking cigarettes with him that I was trying to get a federal investigation into my ex-wife's uncle and her cousin in Evergreen, Alabama over a pedophile ring down there.
Mm-hmm.
And Tommy Chapman used to be the president of the District Attorneys Association of the state of Alabama and District Attorney of Connecticut County. And for years, he allowed Andy Etheridge and some other pedophiles down there just to get away with raping children as young as 2 years of age.
Wow.
And I had reported this activity to an agent of the Alabama Bureau of Investigation Evergreen Field Office,
mm-hmm.
Ron Pines, on November 17th or 19th of 1995.
Right.
And in the beginning of June of 1996, he suffered a massive heart attack.
Right. Hey, but look.
So he had to take a...
I'm gonna have to. There's some things I want to cover today, but this has been great, man. You got to call back in, and we need to continue this conversation.
Well, let me add this. I tried to talk with Lynn Whatley, Wayne Williams' attorney, just last week about this.
Uh-huh.
And he was supposed to get back with me because I've got the evidence to clear Wayne Williams.
Okay. That's
of any and all criminal wrongdoing.
And that's the guy.
And I just want you to let
that's the guy who was
know
convicted.
that because there's no reason why Wayne Williams, number one, should have went to prison to begin with. And there's no reason for his attorney, Lynn Whatley, to be sitting there playing the gatekeeper in his case. But yeah, I'll call you guys back.
We appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. This was great. Thanks for.
You're welcome.
Hey, and what's your name again?
Charles Rogers.
Charles Rogers. Hey, Charles, this was really good, man. We're about third of the way through the show, so I got to move on because I got some other people coming on. But this was good. I enjoyed it. Call back in anytime and share your knowledge. Okay, Mr. Charles Rogers, folks. Oh man, that was good. I didn't know we were going that way. But when we talk about this soft bigotry, this is something that President Bush talked about. And I remember, they always would say that George Bush was inarticulate. He wasn't a good speaker. And, when people tell you that, you tend to get a little self-conscious. And I think old George got a little self-conscious from time to time, but he shouldn't have been because what he's saying was absolutely true. And I remember he said this a number of times when he was out on the campaign trail. And sorry for those sirens out there, but we are in Chicago. Here we go.
But equal, there is separate and forgotten. I will confront another form of bias. The soft bigotry of low expectations. No child in America, separate but equal, there is separate and forgotten. I will confront another form of bias. The soft bigotry of low expectations. No child in America should be segregated by low expectations, imprisoned by illiteracy, abandoned to frustration and the darkness of self-doubt.
Wow. George Bush said that. not Barack Obama, not Bill Clinton, George W. Bush. And he took it serious. He took educating poor children seriously. He took educating black children seriously. And then, and the reason I bring that up is because we have these morons who are running around in the educational system today who actually buy into the mistaken logic that somehow black children need to speak like idiots. They don't need to learn traditional language. How effing crazy is that? See, this is what people don't understand in America, and it really frustrates me. All of these Mexicans and these Latinos that we have here in this country, they speak what's called the Ebonics of Spanish. They don't speak Catalan. They don't speak Castilian. They don't speak the dialects of Spain. They have like a bastardized version of Spanish. Okay. So could you imagine the Secretary of State going to the UN and speaking Ebonics? I don't even know what Ebonics is, to tell you the truth. Is it? I mean, it's just incorrect English, and it needs to stop. You know, I listen to some of the basketball players sometimes, and some of the football players, and while they have become more articulate over the last 60 years, there's still times when, like Dwayne Wade will say "don't" when he should say "does." He don't know as he does. He doesn't. So, you know, it's interesting. He, she, and it do. That's the rule. So anyway, given all of that, education, that's the big thing on Joe Biden's political agenda. We're going to do education. You know, he's kind of dropped that because he can't win on it. Because he's always been against educating black students. There's too much literature out there. There are too many videos out there where he's castigating opportunities for black students and black educational opportunities. I didn't say it. Just go look it up. You know, I mean, just go check it out. It is what it is. I don't try to make any excuses for it. But for Rutgers, and Rutgers has come out, and I was reading this article when Rutgers came out. Oh, yeah, here it is. Rutgers English Department to de-emphasize traditional grammar in solidarity with Black Lives Matter. When are these people going to understand that Black Lives Matter does not represent black people? These three young black women who started Black, they are so far off base, it's ridiculous. And people are sending them big money. These chicks are rolling like in 8 digits, man, 9 digits worth of money coming into their organization. And who is Black Lives Matter? Where is Black Lives Matter? Okay. But Rutgers University recently announced a list of anti-racist directives and initiatives for the upcoming fall and spring semesters, including an effort to de-emphasize traditional grammar rules. How can you do that? We don't need our rules de-emphasized. Black people need to speak correct English, and we do speak correct English just like everyone else. That's what we do. That's what we've always done. If you don't believe me, listen to Du Bois, listen to Booker T. Washington, listen to Frederick Douglass, Shirley Chisholm, Colin Powell, Dr. Ben Carson, Charles Butler, J.C. Watts. We're going to speak incorrect English. I mean, really? And this is to be held. Why? Black Lives Matter? I mean, really? You're not doing anything to help black folks by de-emphasizing traditional grammar. There's no solidarity in that ignorance, okay? But it's always this ignorance, man, related to black folks instead of scholarship. And I'm tired of it. And I think black people are too. We don't need any special help. All we need is for white folks to get out of our way and white folks to leave us alone. See, this is white folks stuff. Black people would never go along with this crap. Never. Never. it relegates you to a second class citizenship. That's why these people who speak Spanish only, they're second class citizens. I don't even talk to them. I just hang up. When I call somebody that I get a lead for, and they start speaking Spanish, I hang right up. Second class citizen. Not smart enough to deal with me. I'm sorry. And if I hurt your feelings, I don't care. I don't care. I always thought that America would get better, but it's gotten worse since I was a kid. I mean, you call on the phone, you develop phone etiquette, you learn to talk to strangers, and then you get these rude, ignorant people coming to our country who are rude, ignorant, poor, and just not good people. Anyway, interesting. So, I'm not going to talk about the Sierra Club and its racist past. That was surprising from even me, Mr. History Buff, to read about the Sierra Club and its racist ties. I just didn't know. But we're going to talk today. We're going to have Ken Lacone come on. Ken is, he has the Lacone report out there. Let me see, Ken. And we're going to kick it a little bit, have a little fun, and hope you enjoy the show. That's all I can say. Ken LaCourte. Ken LaConte. Here we go. So, the largest Confederate monument faces renewed calls for removal, and I understand that, because I remember going to Atlanta, and this must have been like 1975. And they had just finished this monument, right? I didn't know anything about it. Those days we didn't have the kind of news we have today, right? So I didn't know anything about it, man. And my friends took me to look, because we couldn't go up to Stone. I think it's called Stone Mountain, but it's another area. It's another name they call it, Stone Mountain. And they said, well, black people can't go up there. Well, hey, you didn't have to tell me twice, right? So I'm laughing because now they're thinking about getting rid of the statutes, and I think it's hold on. The statues are representative of Lee and maybe Jefferson Davis, if I remember right. But a civil rights group has consulted with stonemasons who said it would cost about $300,000 to $400,000 to take it off. A false history that downplays slavery's role in the Civil War. Wow. The Confederate leaders were traitors to the United States who fought to hold on to the Southern economy that depended on slavery. No question. They try to say that the monument is not a token of racism at all. It's history, plain and simple. No, it was put up to intimidate and to threaten black folks. That is certainly what it was put up for. But yeah, no, Stonewall Jackson, Robert E. Lee and Stonewall Jackson. Amazing. The lost cause of the Confederacy. The war was fought over heroic but lost effort to defend states' rights to secede from the Union in the face of Northern aggression, rather than the preservation of slavery. Well, what was it? Preservation of slavery and eliminating slavery that we were fighting over. Hey, let me reach out here. I'm going to Ken should be on the line. Ken LaCourte. Let's see here. If you hear that noise in the background, it's not someone breaking in. It's the window washers. Hello, Ken. How are you?
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me again.
Hey, man. There has been a lot going on since we last talked. The president's sending in federal troops to help out here in Chicago. And, Lori, I had two aldermen call me the other day, and they told me that they'd miss me being on the air here locally. But more importantly, they wanted to share that the president had sent Lori Lightfoot $1.1 billion to deal with gun violence in the city. And she spent it on pensions and education and everything but fighting crime in high gun violence areas.
Mm-hmm. So here's a question. When you think of how most murders and shootings are committed, how much is a bunch of extra federal cops or federal people standing on street corners or whatever they're going to do? How much do you think that affects that?
I don't know, to tell you the truth, Ken. Like you, I don't know. But I think that these people are cowards, because if you look at the kind of shootings that are going on, these shootings, and we would certainly have more of them if we hadn't passed concealed carry. Nobody wants to really talk about that. We have concealed carry here, and that stopped. I used to get hassled. I live downtown. I work downtown. I used to get hassled by black men who would run past white men and run up to me and demand that I give them $1, or they would take my wallet, or they would rob me. Okay. And this happened to numerous black men, professional black men, because they think we're punks because we have on a suit and a tie and we speak the King's English. So somehow we must be a sissy because, we're intelligent, educated black people. Right. So long story short, when we got concealed carry, all of that stopped. Why did it stop? Because they realized they were going to get shot. Now, I kind of take this as that same analogy and use it in the community. The deployment of these federal agents or troops in these areas, they're going to cut down on the drive-by shootings. Innocent people are being shot. Let's be clear. Children are being shot walking back and forth to school. Let's be clear about that. And why would you shoot in a person's house that you don't know? Just drive by and just shoot in a person's house. All of that nonsense is going to stop. And see, I've said for years that black people they wanted to organize. When I was at WVON, they wanted to organize these groups. And I participated in a couple. And I told them straight up, I'm not wearing a T-shirt with a whistle and a cell phone. I'm willing to wear a T-shirt. I'm willing to wear a T-shirt with a cell phone, a whistle, and my shotgun. Other than that, I'm not interested in standing on no corner.
I remember so much of it. I lived in New York right as Giuliani came in and really changed things around through policing. And it was through a number of things. They were definitely, they put more money and there were more cops out on the streets. There was a more serious attitude towards crime and lesser crime. When I lived in New York, early, we'll call it mid 80s. That was when it was getting really, really bad. That was Bernie Goetz time. That was no radio in car time. It's kind of what San Francisco is starting to look now, or is where I live. And the cops were basically like, look, we can't prosecute regular crimes because we got more murders than we know what to do with. So the fact that there's open air drug dealing going on, or the fact that you got your house got robbed, your apartment got broken into, we're not even going to come by and take a report. We can just do it over the phone type of thing. It's when they really started prosecuting those quality of life things that, when they zapped the guy for a lesser thing and he had a gun on him, and then that was one less bad guy with a gun walking around the street, the murder numbers dropped. even though, they weren't targeting those high-end crimes. So I wonder how much of it's that. I wonder how much of it is just, I remember when the Washington Times did a project for a year in Washington, D.C., where they said, we're going to do a report on every single murder in this city. And, most of them are in the Southeast. And 90% of them seem to be revolved around a drug deal or that industry going on sometime, as opposed to those drive-bys when they were going to the house. They might have hit a kid, but they were aiming for somebody who they wanted to scare off a corner or something. So I wonder how much that plays into it as well. But, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Well, I think you're onto something because, I know Southeast, and I don't know if I told you, but one of the times I was in D.C., I was going to see a young lady, and she lived in Anacostia. And so the cab driver, when he went across the bridge, he refused to take me into Anacostia, man.
Right.
I mean, that's how bad it used to be.
Yeah, but I mean, there was that, when I was in New York pre-Giuliani, it was just a whole notion that crime it wasn't that big of a deal. And it was Giuliani coming in. It was part of it was their stats program. Part of it was the broken windows theory, which I think does make just psychological sense in life. That when you let those little things go, it's a strong signal to people that, hey, nobody's in charge of this.
Well, you know what?
Cares about this.
Let me tell you my broken window story. I lived in Hyde Park,
Sure.
In Kenwood, really, where Barack Obama lives. Lived about a block from where Barack bought a house. So anyway, when I first moved in there in '97, people used to drive by every night, but burst glass bottles in my driveway where my garage is, right by my garage door, and they would write on the garage door, graffiti on the garage door. And so every day, every morning, I'd go out, sweep up the glass, and I had a can of spray paint. I had to go to the suburbs to buy the spray paint and spray out the graffiti, right? And this went on for about 7-8 months, and then they finally stopped. No more broken glass in my driveway. No more writing on my garage door. No more writing on my fence. Because I just refuse for them to look at the handiwork they had done.
Right. Look, you're 100% right. It's a huge thing. It's like any property or business owner. It's like when you get tagged on something like that. If you wipe it out the next day, the kid's going back to whatever, and it's like, well, that wasn't that fun.
But you talked about Giuliani being in New York, and I can tell you that stop and frisk really worked. It may have been abused at some point by some people. I have a godson. My godson's 30, and he went to Columbia Law School. He graduated about 4 years ago now, and he told me about his episode of being stopped and frisked up in Columbia, which is near Harlem. And, I said, well, what happened? And he was telling me, it was cold. He had his hoodie on. He was walking with his book bag and, his book bag on his back, and the cops pulled him over and stopped him and frisked him. I said, well, how did you feel? He said, well, I was wondering why you're not frisking these white kids who look like me, who are dressed like me. But you pulled me over and you stopped me, even though I'm black and I got a big ass book bag on my shoulder, and I'm wearing a Columbia sweatshirt, but you pulled me over and treat me like I'm a criminal. I said, okay. He said, but I think it's necessary because even though I felt violated, even though I was embarrassed, I knew that somebody down the street was not going to get killed or mugged because the way they were profiling. And he said, I was okay with that.
It's got to be a hard thing. I mean, it's like, I kind of get it. And if it happened routinely, I remember being pulled over. They would set up little alcohol checkpoints where I lived when I was kind of the hills above Malibu, and they pulled me over and they had their checkpoint, and it was mainly for cops getting OT. I'm pretty sure they never caught any drunks doing this, but they did get a lot of people with licenses expired and stuff like that, and they made some money on it. And yeah, it was kind of a mixed feeling afterwards, because it was like, here I am. I was literally with my family on a Sunday afternoon driving, and a police officer is asking me, where are you going? Where are you coming from? Did you have anything to drink? And it was kind of like, yeah, none of that's really any of your business. I mean, I didn't say that. I said I would the next time to myself, but it was like, you've got that dual edged of security versus freedom that I guess we have to fight so often in any society.
We do, but I tell you, I don't think that is all that necessary if we enforce the laws fair and evenly. And I think that's all people are looking for, to be treated respectfully in any circumstances. Like I tell people all the time, I've had guns pulled on me about 12 times that I can count. It's more, but just 12 times that I can really count, where I was kind of scared. But
that's a lot of times.
Huh?
That's a lot of times to have guns pulled on you.
Yeah, I think. But the last time it happened, Ken, I had gone to the Sundance Film Festival, had a wonderful time.
Mm-hmm.
I had interviewed what's his name, Seymour Hamilton. What's his name? The guy who killed himself in a drug overdose.
Yeah, Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Philip Seymour Hoffman. I had interviewed him. He had a movie out, a great movie. It was a great movie. He was in Berlin, and it was a spy movie. And he and I had such a wonderful time talking and laughing, and we smoked a cigar together. Just a wonderful man. And he killed himself the next week, man. He OD'd, right? I really felt bad about that. Yeah, I felt bad for his kids because he seemed like such a nice guy. So anyway, he was a nice guy. He's very nice to me. But I go to we're leaving Salt Lake. I go to the airport. We drop off the luggage. I'm looking to return the rental car. I'm doing 10 miles an hour on purpose. I'm thinking I'm going slow enough. No, the speed limit is 5 miles an hour. So the police officer, officer comes over, pulls me over. So I'm in this little bitty SUV, and I'm a big guy. I'm 6 feet, 220. And I stick my leg out. I say, "Hey, officer, and I open the door. I say, "Hey, officer, my wallet is in my hip pocket." I'm pointing to my hip pocket. My jeans. And I said, "Do you want me to get it now?" He pulled out his gun and said, "Get back in the car." So
yeah,
this is at the airport, broad daylight. So I get back in the car. And he comes up to the car, and I'm looking at him, right? Because I wasn't scared at all. And he felt so embarrassed about his reaction. He apologized. And I said, "Your apology is not accepted, officer. Your apology is not accepted. That was totally uncalled for, totally unprofessional." And he realized what a coward he was, right? I wasn't upset. I wasn't nasty with him. I wasn't, it was just a matter of fact. Hey, you were unprofessional. I don't accept your apology. So go ahead and write this ticket so we can get on down. We can get back. I can get on this plane and go home. So my wife, who was with me in the car and saw the cop pull a gun out, she asked me, "What did you do?" I should say my ex-wife. She said, "What did you do?" And she's black, by the way. She's a black woman. "What did you do to make that police officer pull a gun out on you?" So I looked at her and I said, "I got to get rid of this chick."
You should go back and find that cop and who saved you a couple more years of keeping her around.
Oh yeah, man. And 2 years later,
you're right. When your gal is immediately siding with the dude who just pulled a gun on you for opening up a door,
yeah,
she's not on your side.
Yeah, I was like, that's it. And 2 years later, I filed for divorce. I was like, I'm done. I'm done with this purgatory. But true story, man. But
I've done police training. I've taken command classes, and I've done some training with some of the SWAT units and whatnot, just as a yokel.
Right.
And a lot of it is they see so many. Look, a lot of cops get killed, right? And a lot of and and those were guys who woke up that day to go do something good and to keep us safe. And they get plugged a couple of weeks in America and die from a number of different ways. And, they go through training, and much of it is on protecting their lives, which, okay, that's understandable. And I've gone through the simulators where you can see something turn from, and I'm not in any way justifying, a guy opens up a door to pull out a gun, but when you see a guy with a knife, how quickly they can throw it and hurt people, where they have a gun where it's pointed down at the ground and it takes, a third of a second to flip that up and shoot it at you. And, they get themselves so trained to protect their lives that, clearly some of them just go overboard and are viewing themselves in a war zone when they're giving somebody a ticket at the airport. Well, and that's where I think
I could see that if you were in a drug area. I could see that. I could see his response if it weren't broad daylight at an airport, but at an airport with a woman in the car doing 10 mile an hour. It's not like I was trying to get away from anybody,
Right. Yeah.
Just totally.
Yeah, you're right. You know what? 100%. Had he been chasing you from a robbery, or had an APB on you for something that was more serious than just, I'm just pulling over this guy as he's getting into the airport again with a gal in the car.
Yeah, he's going. He's going.
2001, and you were wearing a Muslim headdress, and it was October 2001, and I'd be like, okay, well, that might be a little bit different.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit different. We got a little heightened tension here. But you had a lot of visitors coming into town. I mean, this is Sundance Film Festival is the biggest event in Salt Lake City.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Park City.
Absolutely.
But Ken, but this whole Black Lives Matter thing is just people have just gone so far damn overboard. It has nothing to do with Black people and Black lives. Nothing. Oh, Rutgers said we're not going to enforce or encourage proper grammar because it negatively impacts Black Americans. It doesn't impact me. It doesn't impact anybody in my family. My family speaks proper English. I don't know people who speak incorrect English in my family. They would be embarrassed if they talk like a damn fool.
I totally get that, and I totally understand the frustration at somebody who they look around in their neighborhood and say, I go to a white neighborhood. There's no bars on the windows. There's less crime. People are making more money. They got nicer cars, and it must be a black-white thing. And it is a black-white thing to some extent, but it's different than what I'm hearing people say on TV. I don't see institutional or physical racism holding back the progress of a race, but I do see a self-perpetuating system. I mean, it's like I can't. Even though it's like I've never seen anybody see like, hey, I'm not going to hire that guy because he's Black, or or do anything that would in any way. I just have never experienced that in all my life of hearing somebody saying, well, if this guy wasn't Black, we'd let him into the program or something. It's always literally been the opposite. But on the other hand, it's like, I look at my 20-year-old kids, and it's like they didn't get a thumb on the scale because they were white. But they sure got a thumb on the scale because they were my kid, just like I had a thumb on the scale because I was born to my dad, who both parents were living together. Nobody was fucked up. They both loved me. They both were making good living. So I had books in the house, and I had a computer when a computer came out.
Right.
They emphasized the importance of education, and I would have gone through. My dad would have put me through a wall if I didn't go to college. I mean, that was just how it was. And then I look at other communities where it's like, okay, man, if I'm some kid growing up in a different part of town where I only have one parent and I am poor and I've got drugs and violent crime on my street at a 10 times X level than we did in Arcadia, California, and nobody in my family is going to college and nobody cares if I go to college. It's like you've got societies that are kind of self-perpetuating themselves, and I don't know exactly how to change that around. I mean, I'm certain in my heart and in my head that it's not oh, if people would just stop being racist, it'll all be fixed. That's not the answer, and that's the answer that everybody is asking for these days. But there has to be some answer
Ken,
to say,
I think,
how do we make it?
Ken, what I think the answer is simply this. People who need and want an opportunity should have one. Not every black person wants to have, a nice home, 2.5 kids, 2 cars in the garage, and to come home every night and sit in front of the TV. We are a very diverse group of people like everyone else. All of this attention put on black people and all of the so-called white help has destroyed my race in America. We need white people to leave us alone. That's what we need. We need. I just reading a story about the first black woman Navy fighter pilot. Okay. There was a woman in my class who I was in naval aviation. There's a woman ahead of me named Jill Brown. Jill went to the Navy, to the Navy's program. She had 2,000 hours. She could fly. Why they flunked or how they flunked Jill out, who knows? But Jill was a pilot. She was a pilot when she went to the Navy. About 80% or 90% then of people coming into the program had no flight experience and graduated as pilots. So the fact that when we talk about racism existing, yeah, it exists. Jill should have been the first black woman fighter pilot, a black naval aviator. She was, and that was back in 75, 76. She got kicked out of the program. So I can tell you, it exists. It exists today. There was an article written about blacks in naval aviation last year, and the same issues that I faced as a young naval aviator, these people are facing today. In fact, I'm going to write a great story about how these people mess with my airplane, and I could have killed myself if I hadn't been such a skilled aviator. When you start talking about how far will people go, you just don't know. And, and some people can't even fathom. See, I can't fathom hurting somebody because they're white. I just never had those thoughts. Right. I'm going to F you up because you're a white boy. I've never, are you familiar with this case that just got, the young man just got probation and 1,500 hours of community service? Young black, what do you call it? Coach, Wake Forest assistant basketball coach. And what happened? He was in New York. He was found guilty of misdemeanor assault. He got out of he was at a stoplight. This white boy comes by and starts beating on his car with his fist, and because he was drunk. And the guy gets out of the car and they get in a fight and he knocks the guy down, and the guy's drunk. He hits his head, he cracks his skull, and he dies. So what happened? You get they charge the guy who, killed the other guy with a misdemeanor felony, or not a felony, but a misdemeanor assault. And it's tragic. But, where do you stop? I mean, I've had white boys do that to me. I mean, beat on my car. And the question is, so you get out, somebody gets hurt. Now I get blamed because I'm protecting my property. Sunday or Saturday, I was up north in Evanston, and I'm driving through Evanston, and there was these people out there protesting Black Lives Matter. So I'm sitting there smoking a cigar at the stoplight, right? I'm not really paying attention to these folks. I got my windows up. I'm smoking my cigar. I'm listening to some jazz. And they come over to my car, man, and start chanting at my car. I mean, it was like 20 of them. I'm starting laughing, right? But where does it stop? The light turns green. Should I take off? I mean, should I panic? What am I supposed to do? You see what I'm saying? That's because people.
Those are all fair questions.
Yeah, people mess with people. And then when you respond, the system says, well, no, you shouldn't have responded. You should just let these people do what they want to do to you. And you should just bear it, because that's what Martin Luther King would do. And I'm not a Martin Luther King kind of guy. If you hit me, my natural, I'm a fighter. I'm a warrior. I'm gonna knock you out. So we have.
Yeah, I've been worried of what I would do if they surrounded my car like that and started beating on it. Because the second I fear for my life, I'm stepping on the gas.
Well, that's what happened to the boy in Charlottesville. He killed one person.
Right.
He turned the wrong way. He got
well,
in the crowd.
No, that was a different thing. No, that Charlottesville was a very different.
No, but think
that
but he did not listen, Ken. Go back and look at the tape. He did not plow through that crowd. After he hit that girl, he stopped. He stopped. They were.
You know what? I will. I kind of always assumed that he was out there looking for no good.
No.
But then of course I did see, like, right after he crashed, there were a bunch of guys with baseball bats already.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay.
Yeah, dude.
They were out. Everybody was kind of out looking for trouble that day.
Yeah.
This girl got caught in the middle.
He turns the wrong way. The crowd surround him because he's a white dude, and they start beating his damn car. And he, so he guns it, I guess.
I didn't see that part of the video, Charles. In fairness,
but you would think. But my point being, you would think more people would be injured if that was his intent.
Right.
You understand? I mean, only one person got killed.
Yeah. No, I've seen some recent ones too, where they intentionally surround the car. They wait for you to move a little bit. They start lipping and screaming, and then scream at the cops to pull you out of the car. And I'm like, dude, at a certain point, this is just suicide by Ken. If that's what your intention was, Ken, and I don't want to look for trouble.
Ken, what do you do when you have a 9mm sitting on your hip? I live in Chicago. I carry my 9mm everywhere. So I get surrounded by these people Saturday. What am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to panic? I mean, they start beating on my car, scratching my paint. What am I supposed to do? Because the cops aren't going to come, for one, and there's nothing that they're going to do to these. Like when I saw the cops let people spit on this girl and these women who were going into the UIC Coliseum to see Trump, I knew that it was wrong. I mean, they spit on her, they threw rocks at her, and the cops just sat there laughing.
Oh, was this the one in the Bay Area?
No, this was in Chicago. This was in Chicago when Trump Trump didn't show, and he had 15,000 people in the arena and 5,000 people outside.
Yeah.
Hey man, we got a minute. We got a minute. It's you.
I mean, you don't want cops pulling guys on guys, who are trying to grab their wallet and being cool on things, but probably worse when they decide not to go after assholes. I mean that is how a society gets destroyed even faster.
Well, look, man,
some people become victims. Some people like you and I will become, martyrs at worst, and YouTube sensations at best. But I mean, that's like why we have cops, right?
That's right, and I want them to do their job. Look,
that's the last job I would want to have as a cop, especially a black guy. I mean, it's like I see the way that, so I don't know if you saw up in the chop zone. So I used to work for Fox News for a number of years, and the crew that was up there reporting on this was a guy that I hired to work with for years.
Uh-huh.
And it was a 3-man crew. It was a reporter, producer, and shooter, the cameraman, who was black, and then 1 out of 2 of their security guys was black. And some gal started a troublemaker, and she was listening to him on a phone call where he was talking about something completely different, and she then threw her coffee in him, and then they surrounded the car and did one of these things. But man, everybody's anger was piled just mainly on that guy.
Yeah,
because it was like, you're worse than a white guy. You're a traitor to your race.
Right.
He's just a part of the systemic depression of whatever.
Right.
But it was like, and I saw the same thing going on with cops, where there's nothing funnier than watching some wealthy kid with blue hair screaming at a black cop because of racism.
Right.
I find that it's just kind of bizarre.
It is bizarre.
But could you be a cop? I could not be a cop in a rough neighborhood. I could be a cop in Sausalito. I mean, all they do is minor stuff, and keeping a husband and wife apart is probably the roughest part of
I'd be a good cop. I could be a cop. I'd be a good cop, and I would punish the bad people. and I would respond to the good people. I learned who the good people were in the community, Mr. Brown and Miss Jones, and your son.
Right.
And let me tell you, your grandson Pookie, I'm gonna shoot Pookie. Eventually, I'm gonna shoot Pookie, Miss Brown, because Pookie's a criminal.
Yeah, I just don't know if I could take the abuse, and we're going to push people as far as they can to see if we can get them to misbehave as a human, which seems to be the sport right now going on so much. I don't know how well I would deal with that part.
You deal with it. It's no big deal, man. I deal with it all the time. As I tell people, Larry Elder to me says what white people want to hear. What I, as a black conservative, what I say is what all people want to hear, because I'm very critical of, from a factual perspective, of the system, and like I would defend this guy in Charlottesville who killed that girl. He was not a white supremacist, racist, crazy person. He just got caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. He only ran over one person. I mean, please.
Yeah, look, you were the first person I've heard do that other argument, and to be honest, I never really dug into it. I mean, look, at a certain point as a news guy, you would hear the stories of, oh my God, a young unarmed black teenager with his hands up just got plugged by some cops, and 90% of the time when I started digging into that, it was like, okay, Trayvon Martin. He didn't look like the picture that they released of this, skinny little nerdy 14-year-old boy. He had grown up and he was a tough looking guy. And then when the evidence came out later that it was very likely that he was beating the crap out of that guy, and that guy pulled the gun and shot him, it was like a very different thing. When I looked at Ferguson, I went from, oh my God, how could this happen, to you had a majority of people, black and white, saying no, he'd already beat the cop up and was he was walking away from a robbery, punched a cop multiple times in his car, and was turning around and going back to him when the cop shot him. And that was the whole hands up, don't shoot them. And it gets you, it kind of hardens you a little bit as a journalist, because you really you want to really report on when an injustice happens, right?
You have to follow the facts.
And that's why this case in Minnesota was like, okay, there's no way that, to me, that wasn't just murder. That was murder 1, 2, 3. Okay, let the lawyers figure that stuff out. Or the gal who got shot, Breonna Taylor, in where was that? In Missouri, where they're doing a 1 a.m. raid because her ex-boyfriend came and might have got a package at her house the month before. And they're busting into a door at 1 o'clock in the morning. Her boyfriend hears something. I go out. I hear, I'm watching a movie at 1 in the morning, and I hear people busting down a front door, especially when my girlfriend's got a former, probably a drug dealer as her former boyfriend, but she was an EMS. It's like, that's a horrible situation. But, so many of them came down to that, like you said on this thing, that it really changes when you look for them. And at a certain point, if you're not careful, you start rolling your eyes at all of them when you first heard them report, because it's like, I know it's going to change. Like the Sacramento shooting of a black kid. When it first came out, it was like he was in his grandmother's backyard and the police came in and shot him. Okay, well, as it turned out, they were chasing him through things because he was robbing cars, and they were chasing him through his grandmother's neighborhood. And he turned and had his cell phone in his hand, and the black cop yelled, "He's got a gun!" and they opened fire on the guy, and he had a cell phone. But very different than the kids that at a barbecue at Hammer's house, and the cops bust in and shoot him down. And so like you were one of the only people who I think really looked into what you're talking about. Then I'm going to look into this. It's just like that first notion that you hear coming on the reports are so often so wrong that you gotta check yourself on how worked up do I get on this as an injustice versus just a bad thing.
Well, Ken, you mentioned you mentioned the kid in Florida. What was his name? Oh, come on!
That was Trayvon Martin.
Trayvon Martin,
and the guy that they ended up calling a white Hispanic.
Trayvon Martin. So Trayvon Martin, this is what I had to say about Trayvon. Trayvon Martin said he was going to go deal with this grown man. Trayvon Martin should have taken his butt to his daddy's house and said, hey, there's a white guy following me, and Dad, I think he may have a gun. That's what he should have done. Zimmerman, on the other hand, was wrong in that the first tenet of neighborhood watch is never confront a suspect. That's the first rule. First rule. Never confront a suspect. Right. Why? Because the suspect. What?
Did he confront Trayvon?
Yeah.
I don't think we know that.
Yeah. That all came out in the trial. Yeah, he confronted Trayvon. They told Zimmerman to stop following Trayvon, to leave him alone. The cops were rolling on it. He continued to follow Trayvon. See, so if I were the neighborhood watch captain, he would never work my neighborhood watch, because we were taught to observe and report. That's it. Right. Not to walk up and say somebody, what you doing here?
It's never a good thing when you have when you've got enough crime in your neighborhood and the cops aren't there, that you've got, untrained people who.
But if you're in neighborhood watch,
there and
if you're in, he was supposed to be the head of neighborhood watch. He knew he was just trying to be a tough ass, and so he got into a fight with this kid, was getting his ass kicked, and he pulled out his gun and he shot the boy. So the fight would have never happened if Zimmerman had followed the instructions from, like, I had a situation where this guy spit on me, East European dude spit on my face, right? And
right
now, I told you I carry, right? Now, I mean, should I pull out my gun and shot him? No, I didn't feel my life was in danger. Was I angry? A little bit. But I called the police and I followed the guy, and I gave a report, as he was driving through the streets. And at some point, right, the lady on the 911 call said, "Sir, we have enough information. You can quit following him now." Well, if I had continued to follow him, and we stopped, and he got out of his car and confronted me, and we got to fighting, and I shot him, I think the burden falls on me as being the instigator, because I was told to stop following him.
Yeah, okay, but taking it out of the Trayvon Martin thing, because I do recall that was a contested point in the trial, and I do recall him saying that he didn't do that, and actually, and there was some reason to believe that, but there was a lot that we don't know about this. But I'll go back, just looking at your example. Not sure. Just because an operator tells you something on the phone doesn't then make that the law that you can or shouldn't do. I've heard a lot of. There's a lot of well-meaning 911 people. Hey, go back into the World Trade Center. That's the safest place to be. I mean, just because they say something doesn't necessarily mean it would have then been illegal for you to follow that guy to the rest of it. Because maybe they were just being lazy. Because a lot of times cops don't like writing reports and do that.
No, the cops came. No. Listen. The cops came. I filed a police report. The cops came.
Yeah, no, but I'm just saying that had you said, you know what, I'm still going to follow this guy. The guy fucking spit in my face.
I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have done that. You know why?
Well, I'm just saying that I don't think that would have taken a legal liability. If he got out of his car and attacked you, that is still on him, not on you.
No, it is on Ken. It is on me, because I was instructed to de-escalate the situation. And I chose to continue to escalate.
But that's not a legal command. That was her advice to you.
It may not be. It may not
be. The guy
be.
spits in your face. You are legally allowed to follow that guy and keep an eye on him until the cops get there. But despite what she told you,
I don't think
that might have been smart advice. Don't get me wrong.
I don't think it's legal to follow someone and to intimidate someone.
Yes,
wait a minute. He didn't know. Listen. He didn't know who I was, what I was, if I was going to really do him bodily harm. All he knew is he spit on me and I'm following him, and now he's scared. So, I just de-escalated the situation because I had thought numerous steps ahead, because, it was easier for me to avoid setting up a situation where we confront each other and nothing's good going to come out of that confrontation.
Look, I'm not saying it wasn't 100% the smart move to make. I'm just saying that if somebody does a minor assault on you, which he did, and you're following him, you don't have a legal. you don't have a legal right or a legal obligation to let him disappear. And if that freaks him out, and then he went from spitting to punching, you know, he's look, a lot of things in the law, even though it doesn't like the case you talked about that guy retaliating. I mean, a lot of law really comes down to you started it, and so, you know, yeah, I don't think he'd be able to say, after I spit in this guy's face, he intimidated me because he followed me from 50 feet away. I mean, maybe if you got right in his face, that's a different thing.
But if he, okay, but he and you know, Zimmerman and Trayvon, you know, how did they get together? How did they get in close enough proximity to even have a fight? Why did Zimmerman get out of his car to talk to him?
What Zimmerman's case was that when he was walking back when he was at a certain point, that Trayvon circled around and attacked him. And what I can tell you is there was some like phone evidence in that, like when he called and when he got attacked and whatnot, that he didn't follow him, that he did not keep following him. Prosecution said he did, defense said he didn't, but that was a contested point in that trial because I covered it. So I recall that going on. So his point was Trayvon was being a tough guy. I didn't go back and follow him.
Right.
He circled around and came attack.
Well,
I don't know whether it's true.
You know,
dead,
all I can say
gone,
is
so,
his life was ruined and Trayvon is dead. His life was ruined and Trayvon's is dead. And see, Kim.
Oh yeah, look, it wasn't. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not. Look, some cop in my non-cop in my neighborhood going around and pretending to be a cop each day, and my kid ends up dead, and I'm never going to believe that he wasn't part of that. But you know, it was him being aggressive, and it was also, look, you know, if you attack somebody, and I've seen this even just this last month when there was that one dude who was in Arizona, who was you know, at one of these protests and pulling down statues and whatnot. And they came and hit him with some sticks and whatnot, and he ran away. They came and did it again, and he pulled out a gun and he plugged two of them, and he killed one of them at least. It's like, you know, that's one thing that I tell my kids is, you know, you might be able to win a fist fight, but if the guy's packing, I mean, look, whatever the cause of a fist fight, I would never pull a gun out until I was thinking that I might lose consciousness of this, because if you got into a fist fight, you know, you talk about caring. I mean, some guy just starts fighting you. You know, you don't want to necessarily pull out a gun and shoot him for a fist fight. But if he knocks you out, then he's got a gun. He's got a loaded gun on your belt that he could very, very freely kill you with. So, you know, if you get a fist fight attacked by a guy and you're armed, you know, you might have to increase confrontation and increase that lethality level, because what are you going to do? Knock you out and possibly kill you, and that's your last day on the life?
What I'm going
to attack you,
Ken, what I'm going to do, when I carry, and I'm always carrying, so I'm always looking to de-escalate a situation and escape. That's all I do. I look to de-escalate and escape. That's it. That's all. That's all.
If I came up to you and just decided to get in a fist fight with you, now I'm not a good fighter. The last fight I was in was 5th grade, but I won. I don't think I punched him. I think it was more of a wrestle match. But if somebody just starts coming up to you and wailing on you, you might be in a very tough situation. You know, can you run away from somebody at that? Well, maybe if you're faster than him. You know, and definitely, look, you're always I've carried guns before, and you're always a lot more calm in life when you've got a gun. You don't need to be a big shot.
Right.
You don't need to get in a fight. You know,
right.
You can almost tell the guys who are armed sometimes, because they're the only guys in a freaky situation not freaking out. Right. It gives you a self assurance that if push comes to shove, you know, you're on the winning side on that. But again, one reason why I don't routinely, because I live up in Sausalito, is you know, there could be an instance where somebody's some good hits at you, and you know, you've got an obligation to protect yourself right before you pass out. And what are you going to do if you have a gun on you at that point?
I'm not going to get in a fight. First of all, I'm not getting in a fight.
Maybe, yeah, hopefully.
I mean, that's it.
I've seen people get beat up who didn't want to get in a fight. Haven't you?
Well, I can tell you. I mean, I'm a fighter. I have a brown belt in Hapkido. I've taken military combat hand to hand. I'm not getting in a fight. I'm not doing that. I'm too old. I'm 68 years old. I'm not subjecting myself to that, because even if you win, Ken, you still come away with bangs and bruises. You know, you have scuffed knuckles, pulled off nails.
Right.
You know, I'm not doing any of that. I'm not doing that. So, see, so I'm just telling you ahead of time, and I'm saying this on the air. My only thoughts is to de-escalate and escape. That's it. I'm not getting into a physical altercation. I'm too old.
Yeah, look, of course, and then that is obviously the smartest policy in life. You know, unless you're at home, and then at a certain point, it's difficult to backtrack any further.
But you know, as a grown man, I've always been that way as an adult. I've always tried to avoid confrontation. I've always tried to avoid hurting people, and or allowing them to hurt me. So, you know, it's 5 of one, 6 of the other, or 6 of one, 6 of one, 6 of the other. So, hey, look, man, I know we have gone way over, and all this is going to be up on my YouTube and my SoundCloud. It's all good. I appreciate you being with me, sticking with me this long. It's been wonderful. You and I, when we get together,
So,
man.
As always, these are some of my favorite interviews, because I'm listening and learning as much as I'm talking, and I enjoy that. So,
I do too. I enjoy you coming on, Ken. Thank you so much for sharing with me and the audience. Appreciate it. All right. Take care.
All right.
Okay.
Talk to you soon.
All right. Bye-bye. Hey, folks, this is Freedom Friday, and we're going to play a little Gil Scott, and we're out of here.
Uno,
dos,
tres, cuatro. You see that black boy over there running scared. His old man in a bottle.
Okay. All right.